Strong Roots podcast. My name is Kristen Hill, and we are so excited that you're tuning in today. Our prayer is that you would move one step closer to Jesus through this series. So go ahead and check out this next episode. Hey, Strong Roots podcast. We are in our season talking about grief, and today I'm here with Jena, and we're going to be talking about a loss of a season. I'm really excited to talk to her because I feel like she has some unique life experience when it comes to losing a season. So Jena, how about you just introduce yourself by talking about what this season has looked like in your life?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of big dreams in my life, and two come to mind when I think of like grief.
Yeah.
And the first being the end of my dream of being a biological mom when my husband, fiance at the time, got diagnosed with testicular cancer. And the other being I wanted to have a career in songwriting, and it didn't pan out at all the way I was planning on. But I think coming into both of these seasons of grief, what I realized was it's just a disappointment of the expectations I had for my life. I've been reading this book called It's Not Supposed to Be This Way by Lisa Turkers, and she talks about this idea that we live between two gardens, where we have this perfect Garden of Eden where Adam and Eve walked and talked with God, and they were in perfect communion with him. And then we have this place where we're going to get to this heavenly place with Jesus, where he's going to be making a new garden for us to live with him. But this place in between is like a really hard place to be.
Right.
It's full of pain, sorrow, and a lot of disappointment. And when I found out that I wasn't going to be a biological mom, most likely, I was met with disappointment. And when I came to the realization that I was probably, at least not now, not going to be a songwriter who makes money, because there's a big difference between someone who writes songs and someone who writes songs making money.
Yes.
So, but realizing that those dreams were not happening, I was met with disappointment. And I think a big part of it was like, I'm disappointing myself and what I thought my life was supposed to look like. But another part that I really struggled with was, I feel like I'm disappointing everyone around me and what they expected my life to look like. Like, people were expecting me to be a songwriter. My mom was expecting me to have her grandchildren one day.
Right.
All those kind of things. And so realizing that it's just disappointment and an expectation of what I thought it was going to look like, I'm able to realize that God has orchestrated my life perfectly, and whatever my expectations for my life were, they pale in comparison to God's grand idea of what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
And all I have to do is lean in and trust that wholeheartedly.
Right. I love that so much. So how have people, friends, family, how have they supported you well in these seasons?
Yeah. I can immediately think of one friend who is just a great, good, and godly friend who I met in college.
Yeah.
And she saw the hurt that I was going through, and called me out on it. Just basically through a conversation was like, I see that you're hurting and you're shoving it down and you're not addressing it, you're not confronting it, and you need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like that wake-up call that I needed to be like, okay, this is actually something that's not far down enough to where people don't notice it,
Right,
you know?
right.
And then I think having people who continually pointed me to Jesus, and you did that a lot for me when I was working through my songwriting journey. My husband has done that for me so many times that I couldn't count. But having someone to give you that wake-up call, and then having someone to be there continuously, you know, when you have a negative thought or you're believing a lie, to point out, we're not going to believe that. We're going to believe this, because this is what God says and we know to be true.
Oh, that's so good. So I want to ask a Jesus question.
Yeah.
So how has God changed you in light of this loss? And also kind of go with that question is, how have you changed as a person?
Yeah. A harsh reality is like, sometimes I find it harder to dream nowadays. Yeah. Like, there's a reluctancy because I think I'm so worried about losing again, you know? Like that's kind of the ugly side of the coin.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like just growing up as well, like you begin to realize that things do not often pan out the way that you expect them to,
Right.
and just kind of having to settle in that reality and understand that it's okay. But it can be, once you get hurt, it can be so hard to reach back out again and try again. But on the other side of the coin, the good things that have come from it is my dependence on God is so much deeper. Because I've realized that He is the only surefire thing that I've got. He's constant. He's never left my side, and He's not ever going to. He is going to be faithful through it all. And so if I've got Him, then I've got it all. I don't have to worry about losing this or losing that. But I have to cling to that so hard, because otherwise I'm probably not going to make it through this life. It's too hard. It's too hard on my own.
Absolutely. So how do you, so we all have our own personal dreams. Some of them align with God's, some of them don't.
Right.
And they can all even be godly, like writing Christian songs, like seems very like being part of God's dream. So how have you learned to submit your dreams to God and turn them into whatever God wants you to be dreaming?
Right. So like I said before, it's really hard to dream again.
Yeah.
But part of me getting out of the seasons of grief is deciding to dream again.
Yeah.
And knowing that I have the free space to dream is a really beautiful thing. That like I can dream up this for myself, and it could be exactly what God wants for me, and that would be awesome, and it would all work out. And I can dream of this thing and it be the exact opposite of what He wants for me. What I have to do is, like, when it comes to that realization of God is taking this away because it's not what is for me, His best for me, being okay with that, and knowing that I can try again.
Right.
I can try again.
What does the wrestling process look like for you? Because I feel like there has to, like you said, in between the original garden and the future garden, there's this in between. So how do you wrestle with God when you are really wanting something to be true?
I think it's really important to know that God is not scared of our emotions.
Yes.
That He is ready and available for us to bring our anger and our frustration. I mean, the amount of times that I've sat in the silence before going to sleep and just asked, like, why God? Why me? Why this? Why that? And I think when we bring our emotions to Him, bad, good, really ugly sometimes, it's part of that growing dependence on Him. Because if we just keep it to ourselves, or just, tell someone who isn't actually going to give us any good Christian advice or whatever, it ends up growing the dependence on ourselves.
Yes.
And there's plenty of people who are going to tell you that never turns out good because they've tried it and it's failed miserably.
Right.
But I think that wrestling is being okay with, like, okay, God, I'm going to be very honest with you right now. Like, I'm angry that I'm walking through this suffering. I'm mad at you that you're making me do this right now. And then get out those ugly feelings, throw them out there. And then that is a great place. That emptiness at the end of that is a great place for God to start doing something new and good in your life.
Because when we're weak,
He's strong.
When we're empty,
Yeah.
like there's nothing weaker than that.
Yeah.
That's so good. So Jena, how has God walked you through devastating disappointment in these losses that you've experienced?
He has shown me that disappointment is not the end of my story. I think there's so often where we get in it and we think, like, this is the end. Like, this is what my life is going to amount to.
Right.
And this is really frustrating and disappointing. But God is my beginning, my middle, and my end. Not the disappointment, not the pain, not the grief. And God is bringing about something new and so much better than I could ever imagine in that story. And I think also He, just knowing that He is carrying me through, like holding me the whole time that I'm walking through that season, just like really resting in his constant, steadfast, and faithful nature.
Yeah.
That no matter what my life looks like, no matter what emotions I am feeling, he is going to be there, ready to listen, ready to love me, ready to hold me. And that's a comforting feeling. Yeah.
It is. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And if someone is tuning in today and maybe they just clicked on it because they're just going through a loss and they maybe know about God, they're not opposed to it, how do they even start the journey of trying to trust him in the midst of their grief?
Right. I think we have to take our negative emotions and start replacing them with God. So like if I'm feeling bitter, if I'm about to say something bitter, I have to catch that. First, I have to ask God to make me aware. If God isn't making us aware, then we aren't going to be able to fix anything, right? So like a prayer of like, God, make me aware of when my emotions are controlling my actions and my thoughts and my words. And when I'm about to say something bitter, like stop it. If it's mid-sentence, go ahead, stop it. People may look at you like you're crazy, but it doesn't matter.
Yes.
And then replace it with something that is based in gratitude and joy and thankfulness. And I think also, when I was going through, was like mourning what my future was going to look like with my husband when I realized that we weren't going to have biological children. I went to a very, very deep and dark place. And I decided that I was going to, for 2 weeks, I was going to wake up and the first thing that I was going to do in the morning, sometimes out loud, would be to say, God has a plan for my life and he is working all things together for my good. And I did not believe it. I did not believe it, but I knew it. I knew it up here. I did not feel it down here. And that's what faith is like, no matter what the emotions are looking like, what do we know to be true? And I literally had to preach that to myself for 2 weeks. And then I'll be honest with you, after 2 weeks, like, I believed it. Like, I felt it. Like, I knew, like, okay, I can handle the next season of my life because I know that God is writing my story and he has a plan for me.
Yep. Oh, that's so good. So last and final question.
Okay.
How do you turn your maybe that was the answer, but how do you turn your bitterness to joyfulness in the midst of loss?
Right. Yeah. So like asking God to make you aware, for sure. And then you have to stop the bitterness in its tracks. You cannot let it, once it's a thought, don't let it reach a word. Once it's a word, don't let it reach an action. You have to stop it in its tracks and then replace it with a perspective change. Like, this is really negative in my life right now, but this is what God is doing. And he's doing a good work, and this is what is good and true. And I think that's really the starting ground for really changing your perspective as a whole. Because it eventually becomes, it's really hard to do in the beginning because it feels so unnatural.
Awkward.
But eventually it becomes like your heart has realigned with God. And you have a newfound trust in who he is and what he says he's going to do.
That is exceptional. That is, I feel like there are so many tangibles in what
I
you
hope
shared.
so.
Oh, it's so good. I'm going to let you flip it.
Yeah.
So are there any questions that you want to ask me today?
Yeah, I would love, you've had a lot of experience with a lot of different people in different seasons of life. And I would love to hear, like, how do you walk with someone through their grief?
It's a great question. And I have to just start out with prayerfully. Because I feel like there's so many conversations and situations that I'm praying for, but you kind of know, usually like praying before, but also praying in the moment. Like, I'm going to be honest, a lot of times I'm like, dear God, I don't know how to do this, I'm just being real. I'm like, Holy Spirit, please speak something through me or help me. Just asking God, like, help me be silent if you want me to be silent, or help me to push if you want me to push. And just really trying to be in tune with God, because I don't. Like, Jesus is the one who's gone through everything. So calling out to him. And I think sometimes I am better when I haven't gone through it because I am more dependent on Christ. Because the things that I've gone through, I'm like, oh,
I got this figured out.
Let me tell you. Yes. But again, going back to when we're weak, he is strong.
Yeah.
And it is, so if you're ever intimidated to talk to someone, you're like, I have no idea what they're going through. I almost feel like it's its own blessing because you have to be more vulnerable to God.
Yeah.
So prayerfully and trying to be in tune with the Spirit, but also Kristen Hill's words aren't going to do nothing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. If I point them to Jesus, he is the one who's going to do work. He is the one, his word, like you said, you woke up and spoke his words and his promises, and that's what activated things in you. And I think no matter what someone is going through, being able to point them to Christ in whatever way is sure way to lead them through whatever grief they're going to, because he is the one who can take their bitterness and anger and turn their ashes into beauty. You know, all the promises, and I think that's been my guiding point. Most is just I have a statement that's like, I will always point people to Jesus. Yeah. And that will get them through anything.
Right. Yeah. I've found that I often find myself second guessing after a conversation of did I say the right thing? Did I make them feel worse? Yes. All that kind of stuff. And it's been a very long process of learning, all I have to do is show up. And if I'm there, God's going to do the work.
Absolutely. It's so good. Any other questions?
I think just if you're going through a season of grief, how does that negatively affect the people around you, and how can you avoid that? Because I know through my seasons of grief, I often brought my husband down with me. That's or brought whoever was trying to help down with me, and trying to keep them in a place where they feel like they have the strength to walk with me and beside me, but not be pulled down into my sadness and into my darkness.
I love that question. I feel like we've talked about this too before. I feel like it's something that I'm still wrestling myself with how to do this well, but I found that the best way for me, because even big things like we're talking about, but also everyday little I stepped in dog poop when I yes. My kid then peed her pants, and just bad days where you feel like you want to almost just dump on your best friend or your husband or whoever. I have been learning that I have to go to God first. And you said it earlier, don't worry about how it looks. I will literally go in my room and I'll tell my kids even Mom has to just pray for a second because it's going to come out sideways. Yeah. And I have to, so let's say someone hurt my feelings and said something negatively. I literally will go in my room and get on my knees and close my eyes and say, I give him all my negative emotions from that. Right. I give you my anger. I give you my embarrassment. I give you feeling stupid. All the things I'm feeling from that interaction. And then I just get silent. God, if you want to speak something to me, if you just want to bring me to your throne room, let me experience you, because in his presence, all this gets washed away. Right. And it puts it in perspective. That's good. Yeah. So, and then if I need to process, I don't have unforgiveness, bitterness, anger. That's in me when I'm processing. So if I come to you hey, this happened, how do I deal with it? But if I'm coming to you this happened, and this that
very different. Yeah.
It is, and I'm hurting you and dumping on you and sinning in contrast to I've dealt with my sin. Right. And now I'm going to come to you and either tell you about my day or ask for your advice.
Right. Yeah. That's so good. Love that.
It's been helpful.
Yeah. I'm working on it too.
Same. Oh, well, thank you so much for letting me. Oh, it was so good. And thank you guys so much for listening. I really believe that there are so many tangible things that she said, but I want to end with one. I would love to challenge you, if you're going in a season of loss or grief, to wake up every day and choose to believe that God has a plan for your life, regardless of the circumstances that are going, and make it a habit, make it a daily thing before you do anything else. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and I cannot wait to catch you next time. Bye. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow us on our other social media platforms. We don't want you to miss out on any future content. Thank you so much again, guys. I hope you have a great day. And I want you to know I am personally praying that your roots stay strong.